No, you're a soldier, but this is a political problem, isn't it? I mean, you mentioned it there, our capital. Palestinians say East Jerusalem is their capital. This politics is at the heart of all this. And I just don't see how it can be solved. I mean, just more rockets back and forth, more deaths.
Well, hopefully there won't be more rockets and hopefully there won't be more death. I can assure you that we are, as I said, responding to their aggression, defending our civilians. Somebody on Twitter said that the Palestinians don't have an Iron Dome. I say yes, they have an Iron Dome. It's called Don't Fire Rockets at Israeli Civilians, and we won't fire anything at Gaza. So that is, from a military perspective, albeit a narrow one, how I see it. What we are prepared to do is to expand our operations because we see that Hamas and the Islamic Jihad aren't getting the message yet.
وبدنا اياكم يا اهل القدس بالسكاكين امعموا رقاب اليهود كلها يتقف على العرق من هان 5 شيكل بشتري لك سكينه واضي مضيها وهانا على طول حزه 5 شيكل 5 شيكل انك تذل دولة الكافر لا تجدن اشد الناس عداوة للذين امنوا اليهود والذين اشركوا لقد افسد اليهود لقد تغطرس اليهود وآن الان حسابهم وآن الان تدميرهم على ايديهم.
Since then, we've had almost 4,000 rockets fired from Hamas and Islamic Jihad in Gaza against us. By the way, about a quarter, almost 1,000 rockets falling into Gaza itself. So Hamas is not merely targeting our civilians, they couldn't care less if they fire on their own people. Quarter, almost 1,000 rockets, yeah. That's where they fired from, and that's where they land. Unbelievable. Okay. So that I also want to use this opportunity to ask the ambassadors of Thailand and India to send my personal condolences to the families of their citizens who were killed, murdered by Hamas rockets. 2 agricultural workers from Thailand, 1 Indian caregiver. And I think this is just one more manifestation of the fact that Hamas indiscriminately targets everyone. They've actually killed 2 Israeli Arabs in Lod, targeted Tira, an Arab town. They're truly an equal opportunity murderer. They murder everyone, any civilians they can get their hands on. And they use civilians as, they target civilians while hiding behind civilians, using them, as you know, as human shields. We'll have more to say about that in a minute. But this is the problem that we face. I think you're familiar with the of the Palestinian elections. Hamas was sure that it would gain considerable power, and when they saw that these elections were not going to take place, they sought to use the Jerusalem Day ceremonies and events around Jerusalem Day and the court proceedings in Sheikh Jarrah to incite riots, to incite violence in order to further their political goals. I have to say, the propaganda continued, the lies continued, the incitement continued, and of course this was followed by the unprecedented rocketing of Jerusalem on Jerusalem Day. Since then, we've had almost 4,000 rockets fired from Hamas and Islamic Jihad in Gaza against us. By the way, about a quarter, almost 1,000 rockets falling into Gaza itself. So Hamas is not merely targeting our civilians, they couldn't care less if they fire on their own people. Quarter, almost 1,000 rockets, yeah. That's where they fired from, and that's where they land. Unbelievable, okay? So this is what we're facing with. We are faced with a radical Islamic terrorist organization that has a piece of territory right next to us. Some of you, we identify an arms cache or a missile cache. It's targeted. Now look at what happens. We hit that, and then you see that explosion in a building nearby. That's not our attack. That is explosives that go off because they're storing their ammunitions in houses, in civilian residence. Next. This is a warning shot. Doesn't do any damage, but it tells the people inside that we're targeting a building, which is a Hamas building, a military target, and people will leave. You'll soon see them leave. You see them leaving. People are leaving. The terrorists themselves, yeah, they leave. Not sometimes. The foreign minister is absolutely right. Because Hamas is embedded deeply in civilian areas, because it uses civilian human shields, democracies have a choice. They can say there is nothing we can do. We will absorb attacks, okay, against our cities. We could do that. Or we could level the cities. But this is not our response to the firing of thousands of rockets on our cities. We do something different. We try to target those who target us with great precision. That is not as surgical an operation as it is. Even in a surgical room in a hospital, you don't have the ability to prevent collateral damage around affected tissues. Even then you can't. And certainly
on the Israeli side of the fence, which locks Gaza off, in the city of Ashkelon, the air raid sirens sounded through the day. In the skies, the trails of Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system. It shot down most of the Hamas rockets. The Israeli communities here are used to attacks from Gaza, but not this many in just a few hours.
This is the third time it's happened since we've been here. You hear the wail of the sirens, and then moments later, sometimes the thud of the rockets as they come in. From Gaza, there have been scores of rockets over the course of the past few hours, most of them hitting here around this town.
A mile away, the home of an elderly lady and her carer. They both died, unable to get to the shelter in time. The Israeli Defense Forces spokesman was here, keen to show us what Israel faces from Hamas. No one can look at this and see anything other than a tragedy that has happened here. But the images that are coming out of Gaza are truly horrific. It seems that what Israel is doing in Gaza is totally disproportionate to what is happening here.
I would beg to differ. I think that what we are doing are specific strikes against military targets inside Gaza that are part of the Hamas and the Islamic Jihad's military infrastructure.
We watched the Iron Dome intercept some of them as they flew north.
Let's go in, let's go in. Come on, Mohammed.
Hamas claims to be the defender of the Palestinian cause, striking their occupier. Israel will strike back harder still, and the diplomacy to break this cycle isn't there.